Hi, everyone. This is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we're going to take a look at a few of the transits that are perfecting in the sky right now, which I think will be of interest to everyone on both the collective level, especially if you're here in the US following the election results that are still coming in, but also really everywhere because the transits that's taking place right now are very dramatic, and there's going to be about a week full of more dramatic transits to come, which I already previewed in my overview for the month of November, but it's worth refreshing on right now. So, I promise to you in advance is that we will be covering both the collective and the personal, so that if you are my wife my wife was joking. She was saying while we're watching the election results come in, she was saying that she felt like she needed one of how how dogs have little thunder jackets that they wear because they get scared of the thunder and it helps them feel safe. My wife was like, I need a thunder jacket for watching the election results. Anyway, for real though, it's been a nail biter so far, but we'll talk a little bit about how the transits right now can be seen in what's happening with the election, because I'm sure that's on a lot of people's minds. But also, we'll take a look at these transits, how they might be affecting you personally. And I have a few personal stories from my own life to follow up with. I shared with you that my mother and her partner both have COVID-19 right now. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how I see the astrology at play in that situation as well, which is really interesting and gives me some hope. So, all right, let's put up the screen and I'll just give you guys a look at the real time clock. So, first of all, we had made a somewhat big deal of the fact that Mercury right now in Libra, late Libra, is stationing and turning direct. And as it turns direct, it is also it's just appearing as the morning star in the sign of the balance of the scales. And of course, it is immediately hitting a square to Saturn in Capricorn. Now, the square to Saturn will play out essentially over the next couple of days between now and the weekend. And how do we see that playing out? Very obviously, for example, in the political situation, we have great delays in counting up the ballots that were cast in a variety of states that will eventually here determine the results of the election. So you're seeing that classic Mercury's not moving, Mercury's changing directions, and Mercury's hitting a square to that to Saturn, who can act as the force of time, patience, perseverance, slowness, blockage, however you want to think about it. Mercury is in the overcoming position from the sign of the balance. And we also know that in the next week, Venus in the sign of the balance will move into an opposition with Mars in the sign of the Ram. So it is very likely that we'll see like contentious legal dynamics. This will be probably, there might be recounts or something like that. Those kinds of things would not be surprising, given that this is the situation in the sky right now. One thing that I said and I feel confident in is that with Venus really in the superior position this month over all of the planets in Capricorn, will pass through the opposition in the stronger pass through the opposition in the stronger position to Mars retrograde. That didn't sound right. Venus will pass through the opposition to Mars while being in the stronger position in her own sign, while Mars is slightly debilitated in retrograde and starting to slow down and getting ready to station and turn direct. So I don't see any. People have asked me, do I see that anyone would end up winning this sort of unfairly? And I don't think so. I think that whatever the results are in terms of the actual tally of the votes, cosmic justice and fairness, that's another question. But when it comes to the idea that, kind of due process and that there will be a just outcome, that the votes will end up determining things. In other words, I think is very likely the votes themselves, because you have two planets in the sign of the balance. One, that morning star Mercury turning direct and regaining a lot of strength and overcoming Saturn in the next few days. And then Venus also in the overcoming position to all these planets in Capricorn. So I do think that even if there are some legal challenges in the next few days with the election, that it's likely that, the actual vote tally will have the final say. So I don't think that due process, justice, fairness, and the actual objective view of the voters will be the thing that determines the outcome. The reason that I say that is just that regardless of what the outcome is, the presence of the planets in Libra right now, square to those in Capricorn, and the opposition from Venus to Mars suggests that there will be some contention around all of this. But with Venus and Mercury being in that superior position in the sign of the balance, I would think that the fair or just outcome will prevail in terms of, again, the objective count of the vote. So that's just my take. That's my 2-second hot take on what's happening right now. It's not surprising that we see the slowness, and that's not only is that something that happens every election cycle, and it's really close, and so we may, in some elections, we may not have to pay much attention to the way that some counting goes on for a while, but this one's very close, and so or at least it appears that way right now. And so the Mercury Saturn square really captures the mood of the moment, which is like everyone wants an answer. And I heard someone last night say that, this isn't a TV show where you just get to watch the final episode and then go to bed. It's like it's going to take a while to process everything. And I was like, that is such a Mercury Saturn statement, So at any rate, the other thing that's interesting about the Mercury turning directions very slowly and moving forward, already, one way that you can notice that is in terms of the fact that we did have a turn in the way that the voting came in here in the United States. For example, in a number of states where it showed Donald Trump with a good lead, that the way that the counting came in, if I'm remembering this correctly, with different kinds of mail-in ballots and things like that, a lot more of which were cast because of the coronavirus this year, they flipped. So when I woke up this morning, I looked and I said, oh, look, wow, Wisconsin and Michigan are now in Biden's favor. So that slow turn of momentum, which could happen in a few other states, they're saying, maybe not, but that idea that there's a slowness, and that something that starts off looking one way will turn around the other way and possibly overcome even obstacles, or through perseverance sort of overcome something. That's the look and feel of this right now, which certainly how a lot of people are feeling. So just that there's this kind of theme of having to persevere, and that something that looks one way may be turning around, that the momentum can shift slowly, and you have to persevere through that, sweat that out. Mercury will pass through the square to Saturn in the next 2 to 3 days. So I would guess that that's kind of our timeline. And when that happens, and probably enough of the decisive results are in, what's really interesting is that then we get right into the big punch of the month, which is right around the 9th. We're going to see simultaneously between the 9th and the 12th. Now you can see, actually I should start this over. You can see that just as Mercury overcomes Saturn at 28, past 26, this is by next Monday, probably at this point, the decision will be theoretically made on some level. There'll be a projection, I would guess, probably maybe even earlier, by like Friday or something like that. But isn't it interesting that then you see the contesting going on between Venus and Mars, right? Sunday into Monday. And at the same time, just within a few days, you see Jupiter and Pluto this big moment of catharsis, this big transformative moment. And that moment is a little dark. It has to do with power, corruption, scandal, abuse of power. It also, Jupiter Pluto exposes things that are broken or corrupt. And also can bring, Jupiter is often a planet that brings this feeling of, especially when it's with Pluto in its fall, of starting to resurrect from something, where even if that just means, in a sense, we're starting to feel like we're rising from the ashes a little bit of the entire experience emotionally. That's the positive of a Jupiter Pluto conjunction, when Jupiter's in its fall and is now on the runway to leaving its fall, and will conjoin with Saturn in the new sign of Aquarius, by the winter solstice. So this is the turning point that we were forecasting in November's overview, and now we're in it. If you're in the US, of course, a lot of this is centered around the political reality of the moment, but it's bigger than that for a lot of people. Obviously, it feels deeply existential. So, the other thing that I find really interesting is that, again, we're going to get, if you go through this just a little bit and drag it out through say the end of next week, we're also going to start getting Venus moving through the overcoming squares to Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn. And so there's a potential that this drags on a while until even Venus overcomes those planets, which would signal another turnaround. Look at this. You see another sign of major turning, a major turn, by November 14th. There's a new moon in Scorpio, November 14th into the 15th. And at the same time, you're seeing Mars turn direct. There's another turning point when another planet is turning direct from its retrogradation. So, even if you stretch it out to the next 10 days, there's a lot of astrology to come in the next 10 days. It's really quite amazing. Now let's come off from the political side of things here in the US. I have people who watch this obviously from all over the world, and I want to talk a little bit about what you could expect from Mercury and Saturn right now, and why this might be a really good thing for you. I want to tell you a story. So, for one thing, when Mercury makes this turn, right, and it's regaining its strength after retrogradation, it's now moving forward again in the path, that when a planet moves forward in its own path, it's as though if things have been undergoing some kind of slow change, then there's a momentum shift and the planet starts to pick up its strength. And the station direct is a very powerful moment of a turnaround, which is happening right now. And Mercury is squaring Saturn, which could suggest that as you're turning around, you're immediately met with some resistance or difficulty, but you have to persevere and work through it. Okay, so let me give you a story about this. I'll just take this off the screen now. My sister is almost due with a baby, right? This is last night, and she's scheduled she's scheduled for induction, right, in about a week from now, or 10 days from now, or something like that. So last night, she calls us and she's just asking for some advice from my wife, for herbal recommendations, because she's really uncomfortable. She's like, I'm done being pregnant. And my wife gets off the phone with her, and maybe within an hour, my mom calls and says that my sister was in a car accident and is in the emergency room. Apparently, while driving, her and her partner, they were driving or whatever to the store, and they hit a deer. So they're in the ER, and my mom says that my sister's okay, but they're monitoring the baby. And they were maybe a little worried about the baby. And I went, oh my God, like 2020, come on. Like, come on, 2020. But, I had this sense of trust because I was looking at this and going, well, that's very Mercury stationing in a square to Saturn, an accident, an automobile accident in particular with Mercury, right? But anyway, she ended up, last night, they ended up keeping her in the emergency room and then taking her in for a C-section. Really dramatic stuff. I mean, you can't make this up, right? Really dramatic stuff. Took her in for a C-section, and I'm an uncle this morning. So by this morning, I woke up to this moment where, there's a very Mercury Saturn like moment in my own life. To give you a picture, that Saturn is exactly conjoined with my sister's moon in Capricorn. I won't share the details of her chart more than that, but and Pluto is very close to her moon as well, right? So she's got Pluto, Saturn right on her moon, and that Mercury stationing squares her moon and Saturn right on the moon. So isn't that incredible? I mean, first of all, that's just remarkable how spot on the astrology is. And yet it was a very good omen for her that that Mercury was turning direct and in that overcoming square with Saturn. So they have this accident. She goes into the hospital. She's okay. They're worried about the baby. They end up deciding to, have a C-section. Baby's here. I don't know exactly what they saw that concerned them to say, we got to do this now, but that's what they did. So, welcome to the world I have a little nephew. So this is, it's really, really exciting. And, I'm also really excited because this is like just really nerdy, but my sister's partner and his family are Indian. And so, it's just really fun to see that they are surrounding this baby already with pujas and prayers and incense and all the things that are really dear to me. And it's so cool to be able to just have a little connection to Indian religious devotional sentiment, like literally in my family now. So it was just like such a beautiful morning, such a really beautiful morning. So his name is Kian. So welcome Kian to the world. In the meantime, my mom and her partner both have COVID, and my mom's symptoms are not getting worse, and they're not nearly as bad as her partner, Jeff, who I mentioned and asked you guys to send some prayers up for. I really am thankful for that. And Jeff's in the ICU on oxygen, and he's not doing well. It's not getting worse, but he's in the ICU on oxygen, and it's just relentlessly difficult. So, what can I say? Stay safe out there. But the point of sharing this story was that I'm really, really encouraged by, and I won't share any of the details, but I'm really, really encouraged in what I've seen in some of those charts. My sister's fine if I share a little bit. My mom, more private. But some of what I've seen in those charts also suggests the potential for a turnaround that is synced up with Mercury overcoming Saturn in the next few days. So this theme right now of persevering through limitations or difficulties or obstacles or, obstruction, I think it can be something that really lifts us up. And the next 10 days are going to have a few more curveballs, just so that everybody knows that personally. With Jupiter conjoining Pluto, that's a very big moment of catharsis. I think it's going to be regenerative because this is the tail end of Jupiter Pluto, and I think there's going to be a theme of feeling like we're really letting go of some weight, but it may not be entirely easy, and we may have to purge a little poison along the way. Um, and Also the Venus Mars opposition, in the next week or so. Uh, don't lose your head over it. Don't cherish peace and harmony in your relationships. There's going to be the opportunity to duke it out with people. I think one of the things, as someone who's obviously hoping for Joe Biden to win, and as the election results came in last night, and I was watching, and I realized that it's a very split country right now in the United States. And for me, obviously, because of how I feel, that's like really disturbing. But I have family members who are on the opposite side of the political spectrum from myself. And one of the things that's been useful for me is to take a few minutes, even though I can allow myself to feel other feelings too, of disgust or anger or frustration or whatever I may need to feel. It's been important for me to also take a moment to just recognize that I can think of at least 10 people. I can count 10 people on my hands that I love very, very deeply, who I wouldn't be who I am without them in my life, who are on the opposite side of the political spectrum from myself. And that I have to resist the temptation of self-righteousness in victory or defeat, for what I see as the good fight, what I see as the outcome that I think is the righteous one. But I may think that there's a righteous side to things, but becoming self-righteous in victory or defeat is a trap, and it's one that takes me out of my heart and out of my love for people. And out of my love for what I do with my life. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And anyway, but I do think that the message that I wanted to share about today's astrology, at any rate, just kind of last word here, is that if you are meeting with that, there's that feeling of something being frustrating or slow or being blocking or limiting. Don't try to meet the slowness or the difficulty or the block of the Mercury Saturn square right now. Don't meet that block with a rigid attitude, or don't meet that blockage with white knuckles, because in a moment like this, regardless of what the outcome is, if we are patient in our lives with whatever's happening, and I'm not talking about the political world right now, I'm just talking about what might be going on with you personally. If you're patient and surrender the results, there's a way in which you really, really level up and kind of build spiritual muscle. Those are weird images of leveling up and building muscle. Sorry, I'm like a 8-year-old playing Mario Brothers or something. but there's this way in which during trying times and testing times, if you pass because you're patient and kind and accepting and loving and trusting, and you don't meet the hardness of the moment with hardness of heart, you grow exponentially. You take from moments like this spiritual, psychological, and emotional growth that is so exponentially valuable compared to the small amount of time during which you're being asked to demonstrate patience and character. So that's what I'm feeling. I had to do that last night with my sister. I had to give it up, and now there's a little baby this morning. So yeah, I'm just feeling really thankful today, just like, I don't know, just life is really precious. And I have hope that my mom's partner is going to be on the mend soon, hopefully. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna take this as a moment to practice what I preach and try to really stay seated in a place of trust and surrender. Um, so I share these personal stories because when the most intense astrology hits, any in 10 years of doing this, I have found that it's more important to share stories from the heart with one another than anything else. So I'd love to hear from you guys as well. What's going on in your lives? How are you noticing some of these very powerful transits playing out? Um, Thanks for all of your prayers. Continue to pray for my mom and her partner. Little Keon is healthy and well, so we're really grateful for him. And I'm an uncle. It's really cool. So in the meantime, I don't have to tell you guys this. You know the you know the end of video rant. My new class, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystics, starts on November 14th. There's still room in my class if you want to sign up. There's early bird payment up until a week from this Saturday. There is payment plans and there is need-based tuition. If you are hurting for any reason, especially because you're out of work because of COVID or something like that, and there's a list of other qualifying factors that you might find beneficial. So thank you. And I also, by the way, one more thing I wanted to mention. If you're somewhere else in the world where everything is so, in the vacuum of the election right now, I would love to hear from people from other parts of the world and how you're seeing these transits manifest in your own country. In other parts of the world, it would be nice to hear some news from other worldly neighbors too. All right. Take care, everyone.